Welcome back. It's Jason Walter here, and here's the latest housing market update for you. So the National Association of Realtors just released March's home sales, housing inventory, and home sale numbers across the nation. So that's the topic of today's video. I'm going to be sharing the latest housing market update according to the National Association of Realtors. I have some mixed news for home buyers looking to buy a house in the U.S. right now, because they're showing that home buyer demand is slowing, and that's causing housing inventory to increase. However, we've reached all-time record highs for home prices. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right into the video. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, I invite you to do so. I post the latest housing market updates so you can make a more informed decision about whether or not you should buy or sell a house. So that said, let's begin today's video. This is according to the National Association of Realtors again. They released this report today at the time of this video, which is the 20th. So they say existing home sales. Existing home sale is basically a home sale that's not a new home sale. It's an existing house. Existing home sales fell for the second straight month in March. Also, they're seeing slower home buyer demand, and that caused housing inventory to actually increase by the end of March. Now we're at a 2-month supply of housing inventory. So obviously we need this number to be over 6 months in order to have advantage to home buyers and not advantage to home sellers. So it remains a strong seller's market across the nation. Of course, every real estate market is different though, but on average, it's a seller's market in the US. Meanwhile, the median existing home sale price rose to $375,300. That's actually up 15% from 1 year ago. And this is the all-time record high, and actually is far more than the all-time record high that was set last summer. And by the way, according to the National Association of Realtors, they look at total existing home sales. That would include single-family houses, townhomes, condos, and co-ops. But those actually dipped overall 2.7% from February. So compared to February 2022, home sales have decreased. And again, this is the second straight month that home sales have decreased. In addition, compared to 1 year ago, sales fell 4.5%. So they fell on a month-to-month basis, also on a year-over-year basis as well. So in regards to home sales in the nation right now, have a look at this, because again, home sales have decreased 2.7% compared to 1 month ago, and they dipped 4.5% from a year ago. And this is a second consecutive month where we have the seasonally adjusted annual rate of home sales decrease in the nation. So right now we're at 5.77 million for the seasonally adjusted annual rate as of March, less than 1 year ago when we had about 6 million. Also compared to 2021, we had 6.1 million existing home sales in the US. So we're still at less levels compared to 1 year ago. However, we look at 2020 and 2019, at least for March right now, the seasonally adjusted rate is higher than the total number of home sales that we saw in 2020 and 2019. In regards to how each region fared, in the Northeast, they had the biggest decrease on a year-over-year basis. Home sales actually decreased by 11.8% there. In the Midwest, they had the biggest decrease on a month-to-month basis. Home sales there dipped by 4.5%. So according to Lawrence Yun, who's NAR's chief economist, he had this to say: the housing market is starting to feel the impact of sharply rising mortgage rates and higher inflation taking a hit on buyers' purchasing power. Still, homes are selling very rapidly and home price gains remain in double digits. So in regards to mortgage rates, here's the latest we have from the Mortgage News Daily as of today, which is the 20th of April. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage is at 5.27%, FHA is at 4.8%, and a 5/1 ARM is at 4.14%. So when you compare that to 1 year ago for the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, 1 year ago rates were at 3.17%. So compared to 1 year ago, that's an increase of 2.1 percentage points. Pretty big difference compared to 1 year ago. And here's a key takeaway for you guys here. With mortgage rates expected to rise further, Yun predicts transactions, or the number of home sales in the US, to contract or decrease by 10% this year. So because they're seeing mortgage rates increasing, they are predicting that the number of home sales is going to be decreasing this year by 10%. They are also forecasting that home prices are going to readjust and for gains to grow around 5%. So we're saying that even though we're going to be seeing higher mortgage rates, we're still going to be seeing an increase in home prices overall as of the end of the year by 5%. So here's some positive news for home buyers right now. So total housing inventory, which is the amount of houses that are available for sale. Also, this number here also includes pending home sales. So the National Association of Realtors, for whatever reason, actually emailed them about this a few months ago. But they stated that total housing inventory, or their numbers for total housing inventory, include all houses that are not sold. So that would include pending home sales and also houses that are actually available for sale. So anyways, as of the end of March, that totaled 950,000 units. That's why this number is so elevated compared to Realtor.com and Redfin, because they're including pending home sales, whereas Realtor.com and Redfin do not include pending home sales in their housing inventory numbers. I don't know why the National Association of Realtors does this, but that's what they do. Anyways, a total housing inventory is up 11.8% from February. So that gives home buyers more options when we have more houses listed for sale. However, I'm not too sure how many of these 950,000 units are actually for sale and not pending home sales. Anyways, it's a positive sign that's moving in the right direction, at least compared to February though, but down from 9.5% from 1 year ago. So right now the month supply is at a 2-month supply. That's actually up from 1.7 months in February. Again, we need to see this number above 6 months in order to have a buyer's market and not a seller's market. Okay, let me give you an update regarding home prices in the US. So according to the National Association of Realtors, the median existing home price for all housing types in March was $375,300. That's actually up 15% from last year when home prices were at $326,000. Also, prices rose in each of the regions as well. This marks 121 consecutive months of year-over-year increases, the longest running streak on record. I really don't like this verbiage here. They always mention this in their monthly reports here. Of course, home prices have increased on a year-over-year basis, but of course, home prices have not increased every single month. So it's a little bit deceiving, in my personal opinion, to see that we're seeing home prices increase by 121 consecutive months, but the key words here are year-over-year increases. I wish they would say, how home prices have changed on a month-to-month basis. In any case, here's the latest stats regarding home prices in the US. So right now, as of March 2022, we're at $375,300. That's an increase from last month at $359,000. So right now we're at 2 consecutive months where home prices have increased. And compared to 1 year ago, or actually, I should say, compared to the previous record high, that was actually in June 2021, when the all-time high at that time was $362,000. Now we're at $375,000, so far greater than the previous all-time record high. In addition to that, March is at $375,000. The average for 2021 was only $347,000. In 2020, it was just under $300,000, and pre-COVID, the average median sold price there was $272,000. A big difference in just 3 years to increase it up to $375,000. And by region, the biggest gains that we saw were in the South, actually. Home prices increased 21.2%, which is absolutely crazy. Median sold price there is $339,000. The cheapest region out of the Northeast, the Midwest, the South, and the West was in the Midwest, where the average home price there is $271,000. In stark contrast, in the West, we're at $519,900. And right now, the median sold price in California is almost $850,000. So a huge increase compared to California. We look at home prices here across the nation at $375,000. All right, so going back to the report here, Lawrence Yun went on to say the following: sellers or home sellers should not expect the easy profit gains that we basically saw 1 year ago, and should look for multiple offers to fade as demand continues to subside. So what we're basically saying here is that mortgage rates have been increasing so much. Also, we have very elevated home prices as well, and that's basically a 1-2 punch for home buyers right now looking to buy a house, because it's so much more expensive to buy basically the same house this year compared to 1 year ago. Meanwhile, the days on the market across the nation stood at 17 days in March. That means on average, home sellers list their house for sale and they accept an offer from a home buyer within 17 days. In many markets, it's much faster than that. In California, it's at 8 days, for example. And in Sacramento, it's around 7 days. So every market's different. There'll be some markets, of course, where this number here is far greater than 17 days, of course. Meanwhile, compared to 1 year ago, we're at 18 days. So basically same compared to 1 year ago. However, take a look at this though, because 87% of houses sold in March of 2022 were on the market for less than a month. So 87% of the houses out there that sold in March sold within less than 1 month. Meanwhile, first-time home buyers are still buying houses right now in basically more or less the same numbers we've seen over the past couple of years. So first-time home buyers were responsible for 30% of all home sales in March. That's only slightly down from 32% in March 2021. In regards to purchases from investors and also second home buyers, that represented 18% of the houses that sold in March. That's down from 19% in February, but up from 15% in March 2021. So basically in 1 year, we went from 15% of all sales up to 18%. So we're seeing more individual investor and second home buyers compared to 1 year ago. In addition, all cash sales, which is mostly investors, for example, accounted for 28% of all transactions in March, up from both the 25% recorded last month and also the 23% in March of 2021. So it says with the rising mortgage rates, cash sales made up a larger fraction of transactions or home sales, climbing to the highest share since 2014. Meanwhile, distress sales, which make up of foreclosures and short sales, still represent less than 1% of all sales. That's basically unchanged from last month and also unchanged from 1 year ago. So here's a key stat here because, of course, mortgage rates have been increasing greatly. Right now, the average right now is 5.27%. So the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage in the U.S. For the entire month of March, according to Freddie Mac, was at 4.17%. That's actually up from 3.76% that was in February. And also the average rate or the average 30-year rate across all of 2021 was actually at 2.96%. So these home sales that we're seeing in March really are a reflection of what the mortgage rates were back in February, right? So have a look at this. Let's take a look at February. So at the beginning of February of this year, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage was at 3.73%. That's for the best rate according to the Mortgage News Daily. And that has increased all the way through February. By the end of February, they basically were at 4.18%. So the people that bought houses that closed escrow in March, most of them had an accepted offer within February. So the housing market right now, we're talking about home sold prices. That's really an inflection regarding what the market was 1 month ago. So one would assume because rates were around 3.68% to around 4.2% back in February. Right now, starting in March, they started the month basically at 4% and they ended March at basically at almost 4.9%. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the data looks like in the months to come because, of course, mortgage rates have been increasing greatly. And for every 1% gain in mortgage rates, that causes a 10% decrease in buyers' purchasing power. Okay, let's talk about single family houses versus existing condos and co-ops and how those differed. Single family home sales were down 2.7% from last month, and they're actually down 3.8% from 1 year ago. The median sold price for single family houses in the US was actually $382,000. For condos and co-ops, that was at $322,000. Interesting to see here that existing condos and co-op sales were actually down on a month-to-month basis and also down compared to 1 year ago by almost 10%. All right, changing gears slightly, I want to share some graphics with you guys, again, according to the National Association of Realtors. So the total existing home sales at a seasonally adjusted annual rate was at 5.77 million, a big decrease compared to the last couple of months here. Well, 2 months ago, we're basically at 6.5 million. So we're down greatly compared to 2 months ago. But have a look at the home sales, at least at a seasonally adjusted annual rate compared to pre-COVID. So pre-COVID was basically right around here. So right around in let's just say the end of 2019. So at 2019, we're at approximately 5.5 million home sales at a seasonally adjusted annual rate. And that was basically flat all the way to the beginning of 2018. So beginning of 2018, we're at 5.5 million. So the current sales pace we have right now is still more elevated compared to pre-COVID. However, we're starting to see this decline in home sales. And that's something we should definitely pay attention to, especially given the fact that mortgage rates have increased approximately 2% so far this year. All right, here's the changes in the median sold price across the nation over the past 4 years. So right now, the median sold price for all housing types was $375,300. But look at basically compared to 2018, 4 years ago, the average home price there was at $250,000. So a big increase, especially ever since this pandemic started. I mean, really back in 2020, back in May, let's just call it June, home prices increased greatly, but really we saw the big increase really occur in 2021, and now we're seeing that again in 2022. However, we'll have to see it continues though. I'll definitely keep you posted. Here's something I also found very interesting. Here are the number of home sales in the country by price range. So the vast majority of all home sales were in the range of $250,000 to $500,000. That represented 43% of all transactions. The range of $100,000 to $250,000 was actually at 21%. And $500,000 to $750,000 was 18%. Over $1 million for all the entire nation was only represented 7% of all home sales in the nation. And to wrap this video up, I want to show you one more graphic that I found to be very interesting as well. I always talk about how we have a lack of affordable housing in the United States, of course, because mortgage rates have been increasing. Of course, home prices have been increasing greatly as well. But this graphic really tells us that whole story though. So here's the percent change in home sales from a year ago by price range. So homes that sold in March for less than $100,000, that's a decrease of 21.2%. So compared to 1 year ago, in this price range, we have 21% less houses that sold within that price range. In the range of $100,000 to $250,000, it's even a bigger decrease, a 27.8% decrease compared to 1 year ago. In stark contrast, houses that sold in the range of $750,000 to $1 million increased by 29.5%, and houses that sold over $1 million increased by almost 25% compared to 1 year ago. Okay, let's talk about how each of the major regions in the United States fared, because there's some pretty big differences here. In the Northeast, home sales actually slipped by 2.9% in March, and the median price there was at $390,200. That's actually up 6.8% from 1 year ago. In the Midwest, home sales declined by 4.5% from the prior month, and the median sold price there was at $271,000, a 10.4% increase compared to 1 year ago. In the South, home sales dipped by 3% in March, and the median sold price was at $339,000, an increase of 21.2% compared to the prior year. Here's something very interesting though, because in the South, for the 7th consecutive month, they experienced the highest pace of price appreciation in comparison to the other 3 regions. Pretty astonishing regarding that, because 3 straight months they're starting to see the biggest increases in home prices there compared to these other 3 regions here. Existing home sales in the West held steady compared to the previous month, but were down 4.7% from 1 year ago. The median price in the West was $519,900, up 5.4% from March 2021. So comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. Also, if you got any value out of this video, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Also, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Hope you have an awesome day. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.